exactly. I feel like I'm just like an antenna, and like this stuff is just floating around in space. It's like emanating from the from the universe or the Godhead, and if I'm lucky, maybe I can catch it. So I don't feel I don't claim any ownership. I mean, it came through me.
This is People and Their Poems, a podcast about the poems that make a difference in our world. Host Sandy Carlson talks with people who have become influenced by poetry and who have become a poet or a supporter of this literary form. People and Their Poems is presented by Oronog Mountain Publishing. Thanks for joining us today.
Sam, you recently published a collection of poetry called Muse, and it's an amazing array of poems on a variety of topics at different periods in your life. Would you talk about what has been your inspiration as a poet over the years?
Well, I never thought of myself as a poet. The first poem I wrote was in 1970. I was working in a factory in San Francisco and doing, rather menial, tedious labor, which freed my mind. And out of nowhere, I had been contemplating a trip, voyage to Hawaii. And out of nowhere came this island lady. And then I captured that prior to my departure. And when I was in Hawaii, I spent about 6 months in Hawaii. I wrote a bunch of poems there. So I guess you could say my prime inspiration is and has always been nature, which I consider my home. I've spent the vast majority of my life in the Northeast, in New York and Connecticut, but I did live in California and Hawaii, and I spent time in Mexico and in the islands in the Caribbean, and I've spent time in Europe, and I've spent time in the Middle East. So I've lived in a variety of climates and environments, and that I find is a stimulus for me. So I would say my inspiration is one, nature, two, love in whatever shape that may take, be it familial, paternal, paternal, fraternal, or romantic, but mostly on the romantic side. And I get inspiration from the universe, but rather than calling it, the universe or spirit or whatever one wishes to call, name, or describe that, I'll just refer to it as God, not necessarily, the God of the Old Testament, but spirit, universe, ether, space. That's what inspires me. Time, timelessness, infinity, eternity, whatever you want to call it. It has many names, but that's it. Manifests itself in different ways to different people.
Thank you. Sam, you when before the podcast, you were talking about sharing your book with family members and loved ones and having others hear your poetry. How is it you hope people connect with your work?
I have no hope whatsoever. Some people might find it to be rubbish, and other people might find it might resonate with them. It has occurred to me in some of my recent writings that perhaps I might want to make this more, let's say, universal. So I might write from the position of the first person as if it's my experience, if I'm being gender-based. But then it occurred to me that why does it have to be gender-based? It could be neutral, so that either gender or multiplicity of genders, whatever your thing is, could relate to it. So I have no expectation whatever of how people would relate to it. They may not. I mean, it comes out of, I mean, it's a product that's coming through my mind or my intellect or my being. So ultimately it's personal, but I would hope that it could be, universal, but that might be too lofty. That might be a projection of my own grandiosity. Yeah. Or ego projection. So, there are billions and billions and zillions of words that have been written and spoken over the millennia. So I figured, hey, why not? I'll just throw my shit out. Whatever sticks, sticks.
Well, there you go. And this is all very tantalizing, Sam. So would you read from your work for us? A couple poems?
Well, I could read from Muse, or I could read some of my recent pieces.
Oh, whatever you think, because it would be great to have our listeners experience your range and the amazing energy that's in your poems.
Okay, sure. Well, in that event, I think I'll read from, if you just bear with me for a moment. I thought I was going to read some newer stuff that's not in Muse, but a poem. I'll read the first poem I ever wrote, which happens to be one of my favorites, which is Island Lady. This poem is very dear to me. This is the first poem I ever wrote that I can recall. So I wrote this in 1970 in the factory in San Francisco. And San Francisco, if to whomever is watching this, if you've never been there, it can be very dreary and gloomy because the fog rolls in. It's often foggy there, and the fog can roll in like 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. It's like you're in a cloud. So I was in San Francisco in a period of transition in my life, working in this factory, and this came to me. My ship is entering your harbor, Island Lady. My anchor is plunging heavily headlong into the soft sandy bottoms of your bay, and I am coming to stay a while on your tropic isle of setting suns and orange skies, moonstruck nights and starshine eyes, of blue, violet, and purple moons hanging over lazy lagoons, and your slender palms, pulsating in the evening breeze, rustling through the leaves and through your hair like the breath of a shadow. You are as lovely in the darkness as you are brilliant in the light. Island Lady, make love with me tonight. Live totally in this moment that will last us for a life. Make our time tonight timelessly infinite, and let me live forever in your mind and heart, just as I live in every part of your luscious island home, just as you've made your way deeply into my soul. So that's a personal favorite of mine. Aside from being the first, it was a premonition, and I could perhaps lecture on it, but the island is a metaphor for the female, and that did come into my reality. So it occupies a special place inside me, and I'm glad I was able to retain it over the years, as things come and go, and just a piece of paper that was sitting around in a file or a folder someplace that I schlepped around with me for 55 years.
It's a wonderful poem. There's so much to love about it, but the image breath of a shadow towards the end there is just so evocative. The sort of ephemeral nature of intimacy.
Well, what comes to me, it's like a painting, because to me the colors are so vivid, And that's what comes through to me. It's the nature that's coming through the words that evoke those memories and images and fantasies in my mind. When I was standing there, I was 22 or 23 in the factory, anticipating going to Hawaii. So it's a lot of anticipation and color. It's sort of like a movie for me.
And hearing your poems at readings and then reading your book, become sort of familiar and acquainted with the frankness of the physical nature of a lot of your poems. It's just very personal, direct, honest, and real. And you know, when you read, there's the joy and the humor of it, the not the humor, but the joy, the exuberance comes through in your reading as well as on the page.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of humor in it too, because I don't take myself all that seriously. So I enjoy the self-deprecation, it's, and also, like, from a literary point of view, quite a number of the writings in the Muse were songs, or are songs, that I recorded about 15, 20 years ago. And I would as a literary device, I create a character who's reciting that, So in a way, it's not me directly, might be an alter ego or a character that is the reciter of the events.
Well, that's cool. Will you share something else with us?
Sure. Thank you. I submitted my last poems on Muse maybe 2 weeks ago or so, or 3 weeks ago. And then the week following, out of nowhere, 12 pieces came out of me in 1 week. But then I spent about a week or 10 days editing them. So this was a first. So these are my most recent writings, and maybe, I don't know, my style is changing somewhat. I don't think I have a style. There's all kinds of styles or whatever. Sometimes I like to use poetic devices like simile, assonance, rhyme, rhythm, meter. Other times it's just stream of consciousness that I'm able, it's almost like the voice is dictating it to me. And I just, I'm fortunate if I have a pen and paper and I could get it down. So I'll read 3 of my most recent. This is called Melancholy with a Side. Hello, old friends, melancholy and nostalgia. I haven't seen you around in a while. Then again, I've been busy, with life and stuff like that. Used to be my pals, my constant companions. Now I barely recognize you, except maybe at the end of winter when everything looks so gloomy. It's a good thing spring follows. You would sound good on a menu. Next time I'll order some melancholy. Sounds like a new vegetable, a cross between broccoli and cauliflower, a little melodrama thrown in for some spice, steamed, roasted, broiled, or with rice, with a sign of nostalgia at the right price. Just for old time's sake, like when we used to go to the corner deli and get a hot dog for 25 cents. See you around, old friends.
That's fun. That's a lot of fun.
This one is called Driving. When I was 18, Dad taught me how to drive. Before he would let me behind the wheel, he taught me how to change a flat tire. It's a good thing for a young man to have a skill and be self-reliant. When I got behind the wheel for the first time, Dad taught me was to look in the rearview mirror. It's important to know what is happening in front of you. Keep your eyes on the road. Look straight ahead. Keep your eyes on the goal. But just as, if not more important, is to be aware of what is not in front of your eyes. Ever since the rear view mirror is permanently implanted in my brain. And the farther I travel down the road, the larger it becomes. Sometimes I get lost and I'm not so sure where I'm heading, but it sure is clear where I'm coming from. Thanks, Dad. Then there's this one. Legend. Once I imagined I was a great poet, a laureate. I won the Pulitzer Prize for Lit and the Nobel for bullshit. Before that, I was a famous actor and a rock star. I won an Oscar and a Grammy. How uncanny. Before that, I was a star athlete. I hit 100 home runs and threw 100 touchdowns in the same year. What a career. Before that, I was a little boy, wondering what I would be when I grew up. Dream big, Mommy would say, and mommies are always right, right? It's so wonderful that all my dreams have come true and that I became the legend of my mind so that I can share my dreams with you.
That's great. So there's that self-deprecating humor, right, Sam?
I think so. I hope so.
But you weave in such poignant imagery that it's all of that, you know. It's like the rearview mirror and thanks, Dad, and it's just so relatable and so visual. You know, you can just see that, but also the metaphor of looking around you and looking to the past and what our parents give us. So that was fun and touching. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That just popped into my head out of nowhere. Actually, I have a confession to make since we're being honest with each other.
Oh,
As you know, there's a website now, Samuel Gluck Poet.
right.
So I put in the browser Samuel Gluck Poet, and it didn't come up. What came up was Louise Gluck, whom I never heard of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a girl from Long Island who grew up to become the poet laureate, win the Pulitzer Prize, Nobel, and every prize that there is. And so I went to the Woodbury Library and I took out her books. And that was sort of like the genesis for what I just read. Just, I don't know, sort of like a pitcher, at a baseball game, he might throw some fastballs or some curveballs or some change-ups or knuckleballs or whatever's coming down the plate. You know what I mean?
Yep. Now that's really interesting to have a poetry namesake out there in the cosmos, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you say about where the inspiration comes from. It's out there, and I mean I say this all the time. It's just when the Greeks would invoke the muse, that was an understanding that the story is bigger than any one of us, and we can only offer one facet at a time. So you surrender your ego to that creative power and that creative presence, and it happens. And sometimes you say, "What? Where'd this come from?" And we're not alone in the cosmos. We really aren't.
Exactly. I feel like I'm just like an antenna, and like this stuff is just floating around in space. It's like emanating from the from the universe or the Godhead. And if I'm lucky, maybe I can catch it. So I don't feel I don't claim any ownership. I mean, it came through me, but I don't feel like there. It's like I read it as like I'm reading I don't think it's mine. I read I've read through Muse a couple of times, and like and now that I have the book in my hand, I read it. I don't think I wrote this. I just think I'm reading, a poem. Like anything else, comes and it goes in here and out of here and in here and out of here, and
Yeah, maybe the new definition of author is the person who put it on the page, you know? So we've talked a lot about your poetry and even this. Is there anything else you want to tell us about what you learned or what might have surprised you while you were putting your collection of poems together for Muse?
Well, what I learned is not to rush, read carefully, edit carefully. It's not if one is going to attempt to put it in book form, I think my experience now is to get out of your head as a writer or an author, as a poet, and think uh, how the reader is going to look at it, how it's going to look in print form, in format, in layout, in those kind of, practical ways, not to rush, frankly, I didn't think that this would happen so quickly. I had to retype or re-edit a lot of the pieces that are in Muse, and I didn't think it would occur in the speed in which it came into being. I thought it would be a more drawn out project, but thanks to Ornog Mountain Publishing, it just was like 1, 2, 3, presto magic, and here you go. So if I had to do this over again, I may have waited, and I think that for me, it's just about right. It's 92 pages. I would think I would need to have minimum of 50 or 60 pieces, maximum 100, 120 pieces. So the Muse turned out to be 92 pages. It's a good size. It's a good look. I could go through it in 45 minutes. So I don't know if there'll be, I'm thinking about a title for a follow-up.
Well, I hope there will be a follow-up. And if the Muse is inspiring you to write 12 poems every couple of weeks, there's going to be a need,
Well, I need a Muse.
Well, it's really something, and just working on that book with you, and just how you selected them and organized them and went through your, sort of taking a retrospective look at what you had and what you wanted. It's really interesting. It's like, like Joseph Campbell says, you get at a point in your life, you can look back and see the narrative arc. You can see that your life is telling a story. And when that story unfolds in poetic form, it creates all kinds of places for others to make their way in, and another one of my favorite thoughts that comes from Joseph Campbell is this idea that to see life as a poem and yourself participating as a poem is what the myths do for us. What a beautiful invitation. And I think your book is a beautiful invitation to take that ride. And I have a hard time taking poetry out of the library. I like to have it because I want to go back to it later and look at that poem that I found really compelling. And I don't want the obligation of getting rid of it or back returning it to the library or making a photocopy. I just want the book and to have that set of experiences that somebody's offering the world to hand. And that's, I think, the beauty of your book. So my next question, right? A lifetime of writing becomes this a beautiful book called Muse. What would your advice be for somebody who might like to grow their own creativity?
I never thought of myself as a creative person. I thought myself like aspiring or hoping to be creative. So I think if one has the aspiration, then, that's something that attention should be placed on, perhaps, cultivated. It's like being a farmer, you have to, get your seed, and sprout the seed and dig the ground and cultivate it and plant it. I believe, self-work is important. Self-reflection is a prerequisite to be open. I think openness is the most important quality. We're all painting on a blank canvas. And so whatever comes to you, to honor that or work with that or shape it or work with it in some way, whatever media it is, whether it be in music or painting or literary or whatever, or craft, just to be open, try to let go of self-judgment and criticism, or perhaps, take a look at where those voices are coming from and cultivate the ability to penetrate through that and be true to yourself.
Beautiful thoughts there. Yeah, pay attention to where it's coming from. That's the poet's
Yeah.
life, right? Yeah. Well, thank you very much for this conversation about your creative work and your beautiful book, Muse. Sam, I know we'll be hearing and seeing your poems again, so I hope you keep writing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sandy. Thank you. If it weren't for you and Ed, this wouldn't be possible. It all happened because I went to the library one day and I saw the poster, Nature of Woodbury.
Yeah.
And I just arrived. I'd only been living here a couple of months and coming out of a life-changing event. And that all led to this very moment. So you never know where it's coming from.
You've been listening to People and Their Poems. So glad you can join us. If you'd like to learn more about Oronog Mountain Publishing and the services we provide, you can visit oronogmountainpublishing.com. There you can learn about our publishing and website services, our published poetry collections, and our calls to submission, and about people and their poems. If you'd like to join our writing community and be published on the Oronog Mountain Poetry Journal, please visit oronogmountainpoetry.net for information about submitting and to sign up for our daily email list of published poetry. Again, this is People and Their Poems, presented by Oronog Mountain Publishing. Have a great day.